today, Ian and I are just going to kind of rap a little bit about some mental skills. Obviously, he doesn't need any introduction as far as who he is, his accolades, awards he's won. But I wanted to try to give one stat that I thought isn't as popular. Ian's hit for the cycle, okay? Since 1882, only 330 people have done that. So I thought it's a pretty cool stat that he has. Maybe he didn't even know it himself. But
He had 6 hits that night.
yeah, big time, exactly. So just a couple of things, couple of lessons from the gratitude tour that I'm gonna let Ian piggyback on top of that stuff. One of the things that we talked about is using the breath to help you relax and also as part of your routine. So the one thing I want you guys to take away from here, when coach says, hey, take a deep breath, is that the exhale portion of the breath is what helps you actually relax, okay? So when you take a deep breath, that long exhale is what's going to let you relax and get ready to battle. So I was going to ask Ian what his pre-pitch routine was, kind of what he does in between pitches. We all have our things that we do, whether it's play with gloves, whether it's scratch the dirt, look at the bat, take a deep breath, right? So I was going to let you talk about that. So.
You know, a lot of it's routine. You know, baseball players get labeled superstitious, which I guess you can say we are, but a lot of it's just routine on the way that you get dressed every day, the way you get ready for your game, the way you get ready for your at-bat, whatever it may be. And when Cam talks about breathing, usually when you get to a higher level, breathing becomes part of a slump, to be honest with you. When you're struggling at the plate, that's when you start to think about your breathing. When you're hitting and everything's going great, you don't think about your breathing, right? But then when you start to struggle and things aren't going your way, everything else starts to tense up. So breathing becomes very important. And I don't know how many of you guys hunt or shoot a bow or something or shoot something. Breathing's very important, right? That breath out, like what Cam talked about, it steadies you and it steadies your aim. And it's the same in sports. It's the same shooting a free throw or anything else that you're doing in sports. Before you take a swing in golf or before you step into the batter's box to hit, breathing's very important. So you guys should probably focus on that in practice. And then in the game, if it's a big situation or you guys feel like things aren't really going your way lately, and there maybe it's a little bit more tense, or you feel like the guy's throwing too hard or his curveball's too good or something, step out and make sure you concentrate on your breathing, and it really helps calm you down. It really helps get you in the moment, and it's a big thing to practice.
Yeah, so kind of to piggyback what he just said, right? It's you can't go to the breath when you're in trouble, right? It has to become part of your process and your routine of what you're already doing. So if you're not doing it in practice, it's not going to help you when you struggle in the game, right? So think about those deep breaths. Think about how long of a breath can I take, and see if you can add that to your routine. Working on the breath as part of your routine, that's something that you can't take with you, right? It's not a reminder. If coach doesn't say take a deep breath, you might forget, whatever. But another tool from the mental skills side that we like to implement is actually part of having the logo on the bat, right? I know I was taught before Warstick was even around that you got to look at the logo, or you got to find a focal point during your at bat as part of your routine, right? And so now, everyone know what the logo means before we go too far? Yeah? What do the two stripes mean? The past and the future, right? So our biggest distractions as hitters is getting distracted with future thoughts, right? I have to get a hit right here to make the team, or I'm 0 for 3 today, right? And so we have a logo that represents that, and I think it's a super good tool. So my question for Ian on items that help you remember, right, is like I would wear bracelets or necklaces, or I had my pants up, right? Actually, after this guy, I haven't told him that yet, I just did. But we talked about getting dressed. We talked about your gear, stuff like that. Was there anything outside of that was important to you that helped you get focused, stay in the moment, things like that?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of self-talk. I mean, I don't know how much you guys are a little bit young, but I don't know how much you watched me when I played here. There were times I would get phone calls after the game and be like, what were you talking about in the batter's box? Who talking to, and I would just talk to myself, honestly, a lot. Whether I just missed the pitch, or whether I laid off a good slider in the dirt, or whether I swung at one that was too high or whatever, to just the self-reminders and the thoughts that you have when you're in the batter's box and what locks you in to what you're trying to accomplish, that has to be on repeat while you're hitting. And it's something that, for me, sometimes it came out loud.
No, you literally were talking. Like, I've probably seen you hit more than anybody just because we treat you like one of our sons here and we watch you hit like we watch our kids. You really are talking.
No, I literally talk.
Like, but do you realize that you're doing that?
No, not until
In
after.
your mind, you're doing it.
Yeah,
but it's
sometimes
actually,
I do, but sometimes
I thought you were
really
just
don't.
talking bad about the umpire.
Yeah, we thought
Well,
you
that too,
crashed
yeah. Yeah, I do that too. So it's kind of hard to determine who I'm talking to when you're watching TV. Sometimes it's the umpire telling them they're terrible. But a lot of the times it's to myself. And the other thing I wanted to say about the breathing technique, I don't know if you guys know who Rudy Jaramillo is, but he was our hitting coach in Texas. And he was big on the breathing technique, and he was also big in incorporating the squeeze of the bat. So when you step out and you're about to get back in and you're working on your breathing and you're just trying to relax, squeeze the bat as hard as you possibly can. Just wring it. Just wring its neck as hard as you can while you're breathing. And you're just squeezing the crap out of it, right? And then once you release, everything just relaxes and your grip lightens up and you just feel like you're in more control and everything becomes more fluid. And that was something that he always talked to us about when he talked about breathing. But for me, a lot of it was self-talk and just going through my regular routine of my bat was huge for me. If I ever got out of sync because of the umpire or because of the situation, I would always step out. I would always step out and start over. And, you know, for me, I would walk up. I mean, I could walk you through the whole thing. Yeah.
You literally could do it.
I mean, I had the bat weight on my bat when I was on deck, and I would get ready, and a lot of it was just, on deck, it was just timing. Because I'm a put down early guy, right? I'm not like a late kick guy, so a lot of it for me was just timing, making sure that I was on time with the pitcher. And then whenever the guy got out or got on, I broke my weight, right? Hit the dirt off my cleats, tucked the bat under my arm, walked up. I would do one strap, do the other strap, and then I'd spit in my hand and rub it, and then I'd grab the pine tar on my bat, and then I was ready. So then I would get into the box and I would clean the whole box. I don't know why. I'd clean from the front all the way to the back, like just the whole thing, even though I didn't use the whole thing. And then I would line up my bat. So I'd lay my bat down on the back corner of home plate to make sure that I was standing in the exact same spot every time. Because in some stadiums, the lines are thin, thick. There's no line on the inside sometimes. Sometimes they're a little bit shorter, sometimes they're wider. They're just different in every stadium. And visually, sometimes that would mess you up and you feel like, man, I'm a lot closer to the plate than I feel like I should be, or the plate seems so far away. So I made sure that I lined that up every time. Dig my hole on my spot. So when you see like a big league bat, we all have this black dot on there. And they're usually always in the exact same spot. I would make sure if I had to change game bats, I would measure the one that I was using previously to make sure it was the same spot. And I would just lay this down on the corner, and then that was my spot. I'd put it at a little bit angle, and then I would say, okay, there it is, and I'd dig my foot right there, and I'd dig in hard, right? And then I'd step out, I'd take my 2 little practice swings or whatever, and I'd get right back in the box, and then I'd stare at the pitcher. That's the most important part to me. He's got to know that you're there.
Do you look him in the eye, or are you just looking out at him?
I mean, not really, but I'm looking at him.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to see how he reacts. If I'm looking at him and he drops his head right away, it's like, oh, game on, baby. So that was an important part to me because that's the game. It's a rock fight in the backyard with your friends. It's a snowball fight. It's throwing dirt clods at each other or whatever. So this guy's getting ready to throw a rock at me. Like, I'm going to let him know that I'm going to play his game, that I'm not scared. So that was always a big moment for me, especially when you're facing a guy like Felix Hernandez who is staring right back at you and rubbing the ball and staring at you like, oh, he's going to ring it. So that was kind of my routine. And then in between pitches, I always had 3 things that I said to myself. And one was to make sure I got my foot down early. That was number 1, always number 1. Make sure I get my foot down early. Number 2 was see the ball. Simple as that, just see it. So get down early, see the ball, and then the last one was just let it go. So what that meant to me was, if my eyes lit up, if I saw the ball good, just let it go. Just let the swing happen, and whatever happened after that happened, but I was just gonna be free and just let it go. And that's as
Like
right
trying
on
not to
point.
think about mechanics. Once you're in the
No.
box, your mechanics you've already worked on.
Exactly.
Now it's like reaction. See the ball.
So, I would add things every once in a while. One thing on top of that, if I felt like let it go, yeah, I'm gonna let it go. Right now, I'm braking. I'm not thinking about letting it go. I don't have to think about that. I would add something else, or might be a mechanical adjustment. Like maybe I'm getting into the habit of wiggling my bat too much, and I wanted to slow down. So I would say get down early and slow down. See it. Get down early, slow down, see it. So the third one changes every once in a while, but no more than 3. A lot of guys, it's only 2 or 1. Thoughts when you get into the box is that you want to make an athletic movement. You don't want to be mechanical. So you work on your things in the cage or in BP, and then in the game, it's a game. It's a game. When you're playing wiffle ball with your friends, you're not up there like, I'll keep my elbow tucked in, make sure that my front foot's a little open. You're like, dude, I'm gonna clobber this wiffle ball, right? So that's the same as hitting when you're playing an actual game of baseball, and that's I would encourage everyone to treat it that way.
Why does the routine that you talk about actually work? Like, what does it actually result in? Is it just? It's not to look cool. It's not to just It's to normalize the situation. The bigger the situations, the more normal you can make it feel, the more calm you're going to be.
Yes.
Because you don't realize when you're all hyped up, you can't even see the ball as well. When everything's sped up, you can't see it. So the whole routine is mostly to just normalize the situation.
Just
right?
comfort.
Just comfort.
Just 100%
I've been here
comfort.
before. I've done this 1,000 times. That's really what it's about.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And there are players I've played with that do it because it's cool. Like you can tell the difference that guys are
Like
doing
Jeter with this crazy.
the Nomar.
Oh, Nomar, that's what I was
Like,
talking about.
like you could tell that was part of his routine because you could tell he was intense. He was locked in. You see guys, they're intent. There's intent to what they're doing. But then there's guys that like walk up and like drag the bat, and, like play around for a little while, drop something in the dirt, and you're like, yeah, that's not really part of his routine. And then you see him lock in, and that's kind of where his routine starts. So everybody's different, and some guys do it for show because it was entertaining. You guys like to watch that stuff. I was never like that because that distracted me from what I was trying to do. I wasn't that good. I wasn't that good to like fake it and act like, oh, I could drop some crap in the dirt and point to my family. Like I couldn't do that because I wasn't that good. I had to be extremely focused.
Awesome. Yeah. So last little lesson here, and then we'll go into the question and answers. It's always probably the most fun here. But the last thing I would always challenge kids with is this idea of creating your ideal baseball character. So I'm going to ask Ian here in a second, what are some characteristics he wants people to remember him as a baseball player? But the point of creating your character, right? Could you guys feel Ian step in the box just now as he walked through that, right? And the key to you guys being able to feel that are details, okay? So if all I want you to remember about breath is exhale, all I want you to remember about visualization and mindset are details. The more details you can create around your persona and your plan of attack, the more likely you are going to be to execute it. So what's pretty cool about when you guys go play, right? When he goes and plays, we get to watch him play and decide what kind of player he is based upon who he is for those 9 innings. Okay? You guys are lucky enough to be here to see him off the field, right? But no one else gets to see that. Okay? Most people have this idea of who Ian Kinsler is because of who he is for 9 innings on the field. And you guys as players and parents and coaches, right, have the same opportunity that when you guys go play games, do you guys know who you're playing against all the time?
Not all the time.
Right. Do you guys know all the guys you're playing against? Your teammates, your opponents? Right? So these guys are showing up to watch you guys play just like people go and watch this guy play. Right? And based upon the characteristics you show during your game alone, they're going to decide what kind of player you are. So again, I'm going to ask him what kind of characteristics he wants to be remembered as, right? What kind of player he was. what kind of player he wants other players to think he is. And I want you guys to think about, when you go home, maybe think about 3 characteristics of your ideal baseball character, right? Always hustles, always positive, right? Good teammate. Those are some of mine that I like to have, right? And if you can define that, if you can talk about it, if you can pick, hey, that's my routine, whether it's your gloves, whether it's stepping in the box. If you can set those details, more likely that person is going to come out when you go play. So when you think about your characteristics, right, what people judge you as, what people see you as, what are some of your...
Well, whatever you saw on the field and whatever you thought of me is probably accurate. Because whatever, like I was talking about earlier, I didn't have time to fake it. So what you saw was me. Like, that was my personality, and that's a direct, the way that I played the game is a direct reflection of my personality. I really feel that way, and I feel a lot of players are that way. You can kind of understand what a guy's about just by watching him play 9 innings, like Cam said. But my perfect baseball player, man. Like, can I combo people?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, build one.
Yeah.
Like the brain of this guy.
brain of this
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, for sure. That's what it is.
No, I mean, honestly, for me, it's somebody who impacts every aspect of the game. Every aspect. So there's a lot of aspects in baseball. It's not just defense and running the bases and hitting and throwing. There's a lot more aspects to that. So the guy that's able to impact the game on defense just by holding a runner close, or making that guy a little bit nervous about trying to get a bigger lead, or the guy in the batter's box who might draw on the third baseman because he might lay down a bunt, or he might hit one over the fence, or there's a lot of different things that he can do. He might move a runner. There's just baseball. There's so many different aspects that for me, the ideal player is the guy that can impact all of those things. Because if you can impact all of those things, you're a winning player. That's just the way it is. So for me, man, it's tough. Like, mentally, I mean, Michael Young has to be mentally one of the best I've seen. Just because we talk about routine and we talk about consistency in this game, and he embodied that. Like, I could probably walk him through Michael Young's routine, and when he gets out, what exactly he does. I mean, when Mike Young gets out, every single time that he had to take a right turn and go back to the dugout, he would walk in, he'd take his helmet off, he would hit the rail with the top of his helmet. He'd be holding the helmet tight so it didn't bounce everywhere, right? He'd give it a little smack, and everyone would kind of be like, oh, Mike got out. And then he'd walk down to the end, he'd stick his helmet in the bat rack pretty violently, I guess, but not violently enough to disrupt anybody. And then he would go sit down, take his batting gloves off, put them wherever he put them, and then he would grab a towel and he'd sit there and he'd sit on the bench. I was never a bench sitter; he was a bench sitter. And he'd take the sweat off, and he'd be thinking about it, and then out of nowhere he'd put the towel over his mouth and he'd drop some profanity. Almost every time, and it was always muffled because he always would, either bite the towel or something, and it was a little case of Tourette's, I guess. Randomly just throwing some profanities, but he would probably be the brain,
Heart. Always self-control. He's taking himself right up to the edge, but he would never let himself lose his
If you
mind.
pick one word there, it'd be consistency.
Yeah, he'd never act like me.
I was gonna say,
So, I mean, Hart, for me, the guy that just keeps coming to my mind when I think about it is Jose Altuve, to be honest with you. He's just a freak of a baseball player, regardless of size. Everyone wants to talk about size. We all know he's small. But the way he impacts the game and the way he plays the game, there's no flash about it, but he plays with such kid-like joy, man. He's always in the game, regardless of the situation, and he flies. I mean, legs might be him too. I don't know. Legs might be a guy like Trey Turner, maybe someone that just flashes speed at any point. I'm trying to think of guys that we can go back in the day, but I'm trying to think about guys that you know now.
I really like what you said, kid like joy about Altuve, right? That's something that we can all try and copy. So that's big. Consistency, kid like joy. being impactful, right? I think if I'd have pulled what he was talking about, being impactful is awareness, right? Being an aware player, being aware of what's going on in the game, that's being a student of the game. So those are good characters you have, which I think he always had as well, too, for sure, 100%.
I mean, power would be Josh Hamilton. You guys know who that is? That guy's a monster. That's easy. This dude. So when you take batting practice every single day of your life, you tend to get like a little sore and like a little tight, and you need a couple rounds to warm up. Not Josh. Like first round, walk into the cage, he's doing his whole thing, step back, loud noises up into the upper deck. Like first swing of the day, every day. He was just a freak, and his power was off the charts. So he would definitely be the power guy. I don't know. Defensively, I mean Beltran, Adrian Beltran. I don't know how much you guys watched of him. He played the same way as Altuve, right? Had a tremendous amount of fun. Never to the point where it distracted his play or really distracted his teammates, unless it was Elvis. But defensively, he was just superior. You know, he was superior to everyone else. His focus on defense was relentless. And he taught me a lot just from that. But I would probably say Adrian defensively. Trying to think of other guys that would be part of my perfect player. There's so many really. What?
Yeah, guys to emulate. That's kind of the goal. Well, hopefully you guys got a couple of characteristics and players to emulate, because ultimately, until you become your own player, it's not a bad idea to copy some really good big leaguers, right? Like I said, when I talked about my character, when I was on tour, I never really brought this up, but I was a pants up guy because I loved how he played, right? And just by rolling up my pants and having the same look of him, it reminded me of how I wanted to play, right? So think about some of your ideal players or your ideal baseball character and copy them. That's cool, because that's going to remind you, right? You put it on eye black. Altuve's eye black guy, I think, right? You put on that eye black, and all of a sudden you've got that joy-like baseball player that Altuve uses. Okay. Do we have time for questions? Want to do that?